Okay, fractional place value, otherwise known as decimal numbers. So you remember in lecture 1 we talked about how the Hindu-Arabic numeral system works, so we were working base 10. Okay, so if we have a number like, let's say 567, then what this is really saying is this is 5 times 100, okay, which I'm going to represent as 10 to the power of 2, because that's what 100 is. It's just 10 times 10. So 5 times 100 plus 6 times 10 plus 7 times 1. Now hang on, I'm going to represent 10 here as 10 to the power of 1, and 1, I'm going to do something a little strange and represent 1 as 10 to the power of 0, because any number other than 0 to the power of 0 is 1. Okay? So now, that is 567 just written out in long form. Okay, so what we need now is to be able to talk about numbers that are fractional, that have parts between the integers, right? So not just 567 and 568, but what if I wanted 567 and a half? Well, right, we all know that a half is 0.5. So what that means, using the base 10 system, is I can just say plus 5 times, and just follow the pattern, 10 to the power of negative 1. Right, so for example, if I wanted a quarter, we know that a quarter is 0.25, right? And we'll be able to show that, to prove that by the end of this lesson. And so a quarter is 2 times 10 to the negative 1 plus 5 times 10 to the negative 2. Now, what does this mean? This 10 to the negative 1, 10 to the negative 2, right? What are these negative exponents? Well, it's important to remember that when you have a negative exponent, that takes the reciprocal of the number that we're looking at. So what this is really saying is 5 times 1/10 up here. So if you have a single decimal place, we're looking at the tenths column. All right, and now what we have here is 2 times 1/10 plus 5 times 1 over 100, so 1/100th. So where before we had the units, tens, hundreds, okay, now the units are still in the same place, okay, but now the fractions are tenths and hundredths. Okay, so that's the new idea here. Okay, a few things to pay attention to. Not every decimal number is going to be a nice round number. Sometimes, like if I had 1/3 as a decimal, it ends up being 0.3333 and so on forever. And it gets even more complicated with numbers like pi and stuff, but we don't have to worry too much about that. All right, and for most of what we're going to have to worry about, we'll just round to a few decimal places. But how do we round? Well, hang on, that's the next lesson. So we should go back and check off what we've done so far. Okay, so we've covered fractional place values. All right, and now we're going on to rounding.